Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.
Sticking with our theme this week of positivity and happiness, today we are looking at saturating ourselves in positivity, why it's important, why it's an absolute necessity, and ultimately how can you do that very thing. Welcome to the Leveling Up podcast with me, George Swift from Bigger, Brighter, Bolder. The Leveling Up podcast is here to give you the personal development, the entrepreneurial development, and the business growth that you, the ambitious business owner, desires. I'm here to give you the inspiration, the motivation, but above all else, as always, to challenge your aspirations to take you and your business to the next level. Please do subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. The first question, why should you saturate yourself in positivity? Well, you might want to go back and listen to episode 241, Monday's episode, where I talk about happiness and positivity. And I go into great depth there as to how we behave when we're feeling happy and positive versus how we behave when we're not feeling happy and positive, and how feeling positive, having a positive attitude, having a positive mindset, feeling happy is absolutely in alignment with you having the best possible quality of life that you want to have in terms of your experience of life, and also what you want to bring about, the success that you want to have in business. So if you're not sold on why you might want to be happy and positive, you definitely want to go back and listen to that episode and get yourself on page before we continue with this one. I'm working on the assumption that even if you haven't listened to Monday's episode, you probably already feel that you could probably use a bit more positivity and happiness. And even if you are feeling happy and positive right now, why the hell wouldn't you want to feel a bit more of that? I'm going to share with you why it's so important, first of all, that you saturate yourself with positivity. As I said on Monday, positivity and happiness, it's something that happens inside of us. It happens to us, if you like, from within us. It can be triggered externally by external events and whatever is in our environment or our perceived environment. But there are things we can do to help us cultivate more of that. Because some days we wake up and we're just not in the right headspace. Sometimes we wake up and we are in the right headspace. Sometimes we feel happy. Sometimes we don't feel happy. We can't accept that as an accident, as, you know, an internal whim or something. The truth of the matter is, actually, you can make it far easier for yourself to be positive, and you make it far easier for yourself to be happy. A caveat here, anyone that tells you just be happy, or anyone that tells you to choose to be happy or just make the choice to be happy, doesn't understand happiness. It doesn't understand what it is, how it occurs, and they certainly don't understand what it is. On Monday, I talked about how we have chemical impulses. Those chemical impulses are an evolutionary response based on external stimuli triggering our database system, the unconscious, to trigger electric stimuli through the brain, through the central nervous system, to release chemical compounds and hormones, so that fundamentally we take certain action to keep ourselves safe, whether that's moving us away from something that could harm us or moving us towards something that would benefit us. Positivity and happiness are the experience of those chemicals. So when we feel positive and we feel happy, we are having a better quality of life. Simple as. When those things are missing, we have a less quality of life. When we're in fear and doubt and negativity, we have a miserable quality of life. And there is a lot of misery out there, a lot of fear out there, a lot of threat out there. And therefore, it's not surprising that we're seeing a lot of people, especially this time of year, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, where you see a lot of people starting to go into that negative mindset, that negative space, maybe even into despair, especially given the weather, the dark nights, the sun doesn't rise early in the morning, it's cold, it's wet, it's bleak, it's miserable. We've still got a good couple of months or more to go. The news is full of misery and misery and misery and misery. We're in lockdown again. We've been separated again. Of course, people are feeling negative. Of course, people aren't feeling happy. However, we don't have to put up with that. We don't have to accept that, and we can do things to make it easier for ourselves to have a much better quality of life. And of course, it's in alignment when we're positive and we're happy, we're motivated, we're driven, we want to do good deeds, we want to grow our business, we're optimistic, we're looking into the future, we're setting goals, we're achieving those goals, we're compassionate, sympathetic, full of empathy. We are just better functioning human beings. The more we go into fear, the more we go into negativity, the more we go into pessimism, the less functioning we become. We get pulled into those animalistic parts of ourselves. We go into fear and anxiety, maybe even go into rage and attack, and we shut down and we close ourselves away from one another and we turn on each other. And fundamentally, we have a much, much worse quality of life. We're much less productive. We're nowhere near as much fun as we could be to be around, and we're not contributing anything positive or good back to society and the world around us. It's absolutely imperative that we keep ourselves in a positive place, and there is an onslaught against that. Whether you look at the media, the news, government, it's relentless out there at the moment. Maybe even your friends and family, your business colleagues, it's relentless, the negativity. And therefore, we need to combat that. I talked about this in Monday's episode. The first thing you want to do is you want to separate yourself as much as humanly possible from that negativity, from that pessimism. The second part is what we're talking about here today. Saturate yourself in positivity. You can't just open up a self-help book, read for half an hour, then go back and put the TV on for another 6 hours and expect to be suddenly positive, to have a positive mindset, to be motivated and driven. It's the equivalent of being an arsehole dad all day long and then sitting around a table and trying to instill some good virtues and good values in your kid for half an hour. They're not learning from that half an hour. They're learning from you 24 hours a day. And therefore, it's the same with us. If we go and put ourselves into a positive place for 30 minutes, so we go and do a 30-minute meditation, yeah, it's not going to harm you. And yeah, of course it will do some good, but it's never going to counteract the 23 and a half hours of the day if you are consuming negativity. It will help you a bit, but it isn't going to save you. You need to separate yourself from that negativity, and then you need to saturate yourself in positivity. Saturate. That's the word I want you to take away from this. Don't just go and do something positive for 10 minutes a day or half an hour a day. Don't have a whole day of misery and then try and make up for it with a 20-minute phone call to your friend, or by downing half a bottle of vodka or a bottle of wine at night, or whatever it is you might do to try and lock the external world away. These are coping mechanisms. They're not constructive. They're not good for us. What's good for us is to live in positivity and to live in that space of happiness. That does not mean you have to spend your whole life going around saying, oh, smell the flowers, look how blue the sky is, and look at, that's not what this is about. If you listen to my podcast, right, I don't sit here all day long just being, hey, everyone, it's so amazing, and I'm so amazing, and you're so amazing, wouldn't it be great? I don't talk like that. I talk in a realistic way. I'm not oblivious to what's going on around me. I'm not oblivious to some of those things that I'm not happy about in my own life, or things that I wish weren't the way they were. This is not about being in some weird bubble of euphoria of like kind of hippie mindset and walking around. That's not what this is about. This is about when you go to the core of who you are, when you go to the root of who you are. Are you happy and are you positive? We can all have moments of negativity and pessimism. We can all talk about the reality of things that aren't good in the world. We can talk about the reality of things that we aren't happy with in the world, in life, in our current situation. We can all talk about those things. But is it a surface level that we're talking, or is this to your absolute core and to your absolute fiber of who you are? So this isn't about, turn that frown upside down nonsense. This isn't about positive mental attitude. These things make me want to vomit, right? This isn't about you not having rage or anger and not getting pissed off. We all need those energies sometimes. We all have those emotions sometimes. This is about who you are at the fundamental core of who you are. You see, if you walk around constantly in anger, then of course you're not going to have a good quality of life, and of course you're not going to contribute particularly to your business and the world around you. Equally, it's okay to feel angry if something's pissed you off. You process that anger. You might even want to look into that anger and what's making me so angry, and what can I change, what can I work on, either in myself or external to myself, to make it a better world for me, or to take action on what I'm frustrated with. Maybe there's a calling inside of you that's coming through anger. One of the worst things you can do is bottle up anger. I promise you, right? I did that for many, many years. It's a terrible strategy. You want to let it out, whether it's, hitting a punch bag, screaming at the skies or whatever. What you don't want to do is be negative with it and take it out on your kids, your dog, your wife, your husband, your employees, yourself. So this is not, okay, I get this. This is not about going around in some weird bubble of euphoria of pretend make-believe happiness. This is about getting to the root of who you are and being fundamentally a happy, positive person. I was so negative for most of my life. I went through a period of change where I went from fundamentally negative and pessimistic, and fundamentally where I mistrusted the human race. to one where fundamentally I trust in people, fundamentally I'm positive, fundamentally I'm happy. It's a massive transformation. It's transformation of the experience, the quality of life that I'm having, but also, of course, that leads to me taking more positive, affirmed action towards creating the good things in life that I want for me, the people around me, all my members of my success groups. So you want to do this. And the way I did it was saturate myself. You have to saturate yourself. You can't watch 9 hours of miserable TV and news and read the papers and have miserable conversation with friends and family, sit down, do 20 minutes of positive meditation and expect to combat that level of negativity. You have to meet like for like. We are being saturated with negativity in the world, so we have to cut that off, stem that flow, and then we have to saturate ourselves with positivity. And what's positive for one person is different to another. So for some people, positivity is gained by being in nature, being alone, taking the dog for a walk, or just sitting by a pond with their own thoughts. For someone else, it's being in crowds or groups or connecting with other people. I know that's limited right now, but find a way if that's what makes you positive and happy. Some people like to read, some people like to watch TV or to watch films. Some people love to engage in intense conversations with other people. Some people like to have light, jovial conversations. Some people like intelligent humor. Some people like slapstick humor. So you have to work out what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what makes you have fun, what brings you joy, what makes you feel positive. And then you need to go and consume more of that. It's not rocket science. If you wanted to lose weight and you're eating too much chocolate and not enough salad, what you need to do, you need to readdress the balance. You need to cut off the chocolate supply and you need to increase the supply of healthy, nutritious foods. If you do that, you'll be healthier and you'll most likely lose weight. It's the same thing with this. We need to starve and cut off the flow of negativity, and we need to breathe life into the positivity. As I'm speaking to you now, I'm reminded of that incredible Native American parable where the grandson goes to his grandfather and raises this question around positivity and negativity and the negative that's in his head and the fear that's in his head. And the grandfather says, there are two wolves in every man. There is the good wolf and there is the bad wolf, and you have to starve the bad wolf. Now, I'm massively misquoting that, but I love that whole concept. It's just a really succinct way of saying inside your head, there's positivity and there's negativity. There's parts of you that breathe life into the world around you, your business, your relationships, and there's part of you that potentially kills those things off. And when you've got external stimuli around you that's constantly bombarding you with the negative, then what you're doing is you're feeding that negative within you, and you have to cut that off. You cut it off externally and you have to cut it off internally. So you have to, first of all, stem the flow of the external negativity. Turn it off. The TV, the media, the people, cut them off. Turn them off. Then you need to turn on the taps to the positivity. But there's no point turning on the taps to positivity if you are still running the negative narrative in your own mind. So then you have to stem the flow within yourself so you're no longer creating the negativity inside yourself. So you can sit back and say, you know what, it's not my fault. The news is giving me this misery. The world is in this misery. Brilliant. Shut that away and whatever's left is you. So if you're still feeling negative in that, you have to stem that flow inside of you. Then by flooding yourself with positivity, you can start to have the benefits of that. Saturate yourself in the people that make you feel better, the people that make you feel positive, the groups of people that inspire you, breathe life into you, the books, the stories, the TV programs, the films, the things that give you hope and the things that make you feel good about the world, about people, and tap into those feelings and emotions that you know you need in order to have a good quality experience of life, but also stimulate you to take the action you need to in order to better your life, to improve the success in your business. So I want to finish off this episode for the next sort of 4 or 5 minutes by really sharing with you a model for how this all goes together, how it works. So we have an experience of life. We talked about this in Monday's episode. That experience of life is really just us having awareness of the chemistry set that's firing up from the unconscious. So the unconscious is firing chemicals and electrical stimulus is around the body in order to manipulate certain actions in order to get a certain result that the unconscious perceives as being safe for us, right? Beneficial for us. So when we became aware and conscious, we had a layer. So if you imagine at the darkest layer at the bottom, we have the unconscious. I often call it the unconscious abyss because it's darkness. There's no one in there. There's nothing in there apart from data. And the unconscious gets triggered and it releases data, just like your computer. You hit a key and it spits out data. That's what the unconscious does. And it passes through the consciousness out into action and then interacts with the world around you, creating a reaction. If we're oblivious, switched off, distracted, let's be honest, I said this before, 95 to 99% of everything we think, feel, and do is unconscious anyway. So most of this we're oblivious to anyway. It passes through us. We don't even see it. We just see the reaction. We just see the result in the external world. Well, the more we trigger off a certain response, the more we're going to behave in certain ways, the more we're going to create a world around us that reflects that action, that behavior, and ultimately reflects that unconscious stimulus. We might perceive that as a good thing. We might perceive that as a bad thing. So what happens is, if we're running negative programming, if we're having a negative reaction in life, if we're seeing the world not in the way we want to see the world in terms of our business growth or our relationships, our health, whatever it might be, we look at that reaction and we realize it's coming from action from us, which is being stimulated by unconscious stimuli, electrical impulses turned into chemicals and hormones that trigger behavior and actions that give us that result. And it's coming from within us and it's pouring out into the outside world through our actions and interactions and through our behaviors, creating the business, the world, the relationship, the body, the health, the family life that you currently have. So if that's one that you love, then the system's working brilliantly. If it's one that you don't love, then it needs improving. So you have positivity in you and happiness in you. You have the ability to trigger positive stimuli. But you can't go into the unconscious in order to make that switch happen. You can't go into the unconscious and then unplug the negativity and plug in the positivity because you sit in that conscious band in the middle between the unconscious and the external world. So you're there passively, to some degree, watching this happen. What we need to do is we need to get active in that process. So we need to then start to make sure that we're triggering the internal positive reactions that we want in us to create more positivity in the outside world. And as it passes through our awareness, it creates a positive experience of life. So to do that, we have to trigger it. And the way we trigger it is, I've already suggested it today, is you put yourself into the environments and you put yourself into the proximity of people and content and media and entertainment and whatever else that stimulates that response in you. And then the more you saturate yourself in the external world with that, the more it's going to trigger that internal reaction from you, which in turn means you're going to behave in certain ways, which means you're going to start to build more positivity around you, have more positivity around you, which makes it easier for you to see all that positivity, which means that positivity then feeds back into the process, and it makes it easier for us to stay in that positive place. Now, the enemy to all of this is all of that negativity in the outside world. If you've got the news on now, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, social media constantly pumping loads of negativity into your life, the problem you've got there, of course, is you're having to combat this incredible avalanche of negativity, anxiety, fear-inducing content. So this is a bit like standing under a waterfall or Niagara Falls with a water pistol trying to shoot the droplets of negativity with your little positivity water pistol. It's never going to work. You have to get yourself out of that drowning, that saturation of negativity. Then you start, maybe it's just a little pea shooter initially, a little bit of positivity here, a little bit of positivity there, but it will start to grow. And then what you want to try and do is find another waterfall, a positive waterfall. I've said to many people suffering with depression, you could do a lot worse than just binge watch Friends or binge watch Scrubs or pick your favorite comedy series and just binge watch it. The Office, The American Office, whatever it is. Because those programs are incredible positive influences in our life because they have their challenges, they have their drama, they have death in them and all sorts, divorce. But it's always taken with a little bit of a pinch of salt. And yes, there's emotion, there's tears, but there's always a joke in there. It always ends up positive. It always ends up good at the end of the day. And that's a really good lesson for your unconscious to get when you're feeling hopeless and depressed. And whilst I say, I'm not going to diagnose you as depressed, and I'm not going to say, right, I'm going to prescribe you the Comedy Channel, but I tell you now, you could do a hell of a lot worse than turn off the news and watch the Comedy Channel. You can do a lot worse than close the newspapers and open up an inspirational book. So get yourself out of the waterfall of negativity, get yourself into the waterfall of positivity. You then need to make sure that you maintain inside yourself, the conscious part, the bit that you can influence with. You need to make sure that you're constantly protecting yourself from the negativity and bringing yourself into the positivity. Then what happens, of course, is the whole thing then starts to get a life of its own, and you can move into a naturally positive place, a naturally happy place where you are mostly happy and positive without having to do anything. You might not be there at the moment. You might be in a place where you're mostly unhappy and negative. You can make that transition. And if you're in a place where you're mostly happy and positive now, then what I'm saying here will just safeguard that and protect that and make it easier for you to stay there and even take you to new levels of positivity and happiness. This is not about ignoring what's going on in the external world. I said this, I made this very clear on Monday. This is not about pretending things aren't the way they are. That's not what this is about. This is about being informed as you need to be informed, but it's about protecting yourself, not getting bought into the narrative, to protect yourself from the onslaught of negativity out there, and then to go out and deliberately, actively seek places, spaces, individuals, books, media, anything that makes you feel better, your family and everything else. Imagine it's like the dinner table. If you've been a dickhead of a dad the whole day, you don't get to make it right in just 20 minutes. You need to be the majority of the time a good dad, and then you can get forgiven for being a dickhead every now and again. That's how it works. It's the same with this. You can be negative sometimes, angry sometimes. That's fine. We can forgive all of that if the majority of the time we're positive and we're happy. We can consume some negativity. We can consume some news if it's the small part of what we're consuming, not the majority of what we're consuming. If you watch 10 minutes of news, 5 minutes of news, get the headlines if you feel you need them, but just don't get consumed into the narrative. You watch the news for an hour, there's probably only like 5 minutes of actual news and 55 minutes of story, of narrative. Protect yourself from the narrative. Protect yourself from the story. The story and the narrative are there to sell you a concept, sell you an idea, just like they are in marketing and everything else. It's the story that pulls you in. The headline is news. The headline is information. You need as much as you need or as little as you need in order to be able to live your life and make the decision you need to make for yourself. And that's the end of it. So you can handle snippets of that, 5 minutes of that, a quick overview. What are the headlines today? You can do that if the rest of the day you're consuming positive stuff, having positive thoughts. If the rest of the day you're happy on the whole, you can handle moments of fear and anxiety and worry. So this isn't about turning you into someone that never has those negative experiences. It's unrealistic, especially in the world as it is today. This is about giving you the tools and empowering you to determine to what degree you allow yourself to get pulled into negativity and unhappiness, and to what degree you pull yourself out of that and put yourself into positivity and happiness. And let's be honest, you're a better person when you're positive and happy. You're better performing. You're better functioning as a business owner. You're nicer to be around. You have more compassion, more sympathy, more empathy. You are just an all-round better person when you are happy and when you are positive. And right now, the world is not making it easy to be like that. And therefore, we're making it so much harder than we need to in the world around us. We're seeing so much more misery than really needs to exist out there. It's not your fault. It's not our fault. It's in the programming. It's in the news. It's in the media. It's in the air. Just relentless. Protect yourself from that. Pull yourself out of that. Get yourself into positivity. Get yourself into happiness. You will ride this next wave out. We will get to the other side. And the world and you will be much, much better for it. So go out there, go flood yourself, saturate yourself in positivity, make yourself happy, make it easier for you to be happy, create environments and put yourself in environments that make it easier for you to have a happy experience of life where you can be more positive, be higher functioning, better performing, and you can be an all-round nicer, happier, more fulfilled human being, creating greater levels of success in your life. Please do go and check out Bigger, Brighter, Bolder. Go and see what we're doing at our success groups and how we're helping ambitious business owners just like you achieve the results that you want to achieve in business, regardless of what's going on in the external world. We had an unbelievable year in 2020. It was not easy. It was very challenging. It was tough for many of us. However, we got through it. We got through it together. Spirits were high. Motivation was high. Goal achievement was high. Many businesses having the best years of their life. Many businesses having the best period of their entire business careers towards the end of 2020. We are not going to let up in 2021. We drive you, we push you, we create an incredible environment of supportive people where people who expect the very best from you, but equally accept the very worst from you. We help you set your goals, create your vision, tune you into your purpose, your mission. We help you with your business model, your pricing, marketing, your sales. We help you with motivation, with drive, with focusing on your agenda. We create incredibly fun environments. We have fun, we have laughter, we have tears as well. Everything goes. It's a safe environment for you to go out and build the life you want, build the business you want, and have the success that you want. If you're just launching your business right now, we've got groups for you exactly in that position. If you have been in business for a little while, doing 20, 30, 40, 50K, and you want to build that 100K plus business, we've got groups of individuals doing exactly that right now. And if you are already doing over 100K in turnover and you want to scale your business and start to build the quality of the life that you always wanted, then again, we've got masterminds for that very purpose. We've seen businesses go from 50K to 500 grand turnovers in the past 2 months. The majority of that growth was last year in terrible circumstances for many business owners. We've had business owners go from 100 grand to 200 grand to 500 grand to 1.2 million in consecutive years. We've had business owners that go within 6 months to 12 months that go from 30, 40, 50K to breaking that 100 grand. One of the business owners I was speaking to just yesterday in our success groups joined us probably, earlier last year, just before the lockdown occurred. She was doing, I think, around 40 to 50K. She ended the year on over £100,000 turnover. She's now moving up from the under 100 grand group to the 100 grand plus group, as did many others last year. Regardless of where you are on your current business journey, we have environments to help you level up to that next level. Go and check us out at biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk. If you're ready for a conversation, my partner in life and in business, Tracy Miller, would love to hear from you. You can email her at tracy.miller@biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk. I'll drop those links in the descriptions of this episode, along with some other resources to help you on your ongoing entrepreneurial journey. I will see you next time, and until then, as always, be successful.
Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.